Hi everyone, I'm Eric. Welcome to Toast Crashers Freestyle Sunday. We have a special version of the show tonight. As you can see, I'm not alone. I am with our fellow friend Liz, part of our alumni recovery group from Heritage and Searage. And I happen to be visiting her because, well, it's whole season there in Canada. Today is Saint Jean Baptiste in Quebec. So, as a good Quebecer, I decided to move away to Ontario. This is history, right? Something like that. How are you doing, Eric?
Uh, I'm stuck in Quebec. So,
It's raining in Quebec.
yeah, it's stopped now. But it's always raining in Quebec,
Yeah, it's
metaphorically
beautiful
speaking.
sunshine over here. I'm just saying, beautiful sunshine.
Yeah,
So,
rub
guys,
it
how
in.
are you doing?
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. You? Yeah.
Great. We are really excited to have you, actually. This is new to us, so we're not that comfortable with podcasting already. So, no pressure for you either.
Thank you.
However, the reason why we wanted to get recording tonight is well, we received really sad news uh, yesterday, actually. But a lack of words what actually just happened. Uh, we lost a really good friend and brother in recovery in the most unexpected way. And it's crazy because Liz and I were about to drive to his place and go visit him. Like we planned that the night where it is believed that he passed away. Our good friend Brian. Well, and it's maybe not evident right now on the podcast, but we've been talking a lot. The group has been really unified since over the last 24 hours, and we've had already two meetings commemorating the exceptional man he was. Um, but we were talking, Eric and I, this morning. It felt like there was a little bit more we could do and honor his memory. Is that pretty well said? You want to add to it?
I would just say that I just find that this is like a continuation, right? And hopefully we'll get this out fast enough for people that are still in shock and still dealing kind of with his absence because it's going to be felt in these morning meetings. Yeah, no, I just felt like continue the conversation and for people to keep reaching out to each other. Yeah, I thought this was the right thing to do.
Yeah, because I think like it's a sad topic, we cannot talk too much about it. As you've mentioned, Brad was facilitating meetings in the morning. He's been for a couple of months already, and a lot of people were looking up to him as a mentor in sobriety. Well, Liz, you're pretty close to Brad, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, there are some folks that I have been able to have a closer friendship with. And I'm lucky that Brad is one of them who was, yeah, just really easy to talk to person and a good listener. So that's the key. And our community, it varies, obviously. And absolutely, I'll try to be uh, as articulate as I can in saying that when news like this happens and people are in recovery or especially early recovery, as you said, that's someone that they look up to or look to for inspiration, that it's important to talk about. I believe it's important to talk about um, what do we do and sort of keep in mind like uh, other supports that we have, like each other and definitely our family. So our fam.
Yeah, and well, I've heard that a couple times in the meetings already over the last 2 days, but it is very true. Like what addiction wants is us to be isolated and like not reaching out. But I think we are as a family, the Heritage Heritage family, doing a good job already at making sure we look after one another. First, for me, that's a very first like that says how early I am in recovery. I haven't lost any brother or sister in recovery just yet. I know as you, that's I believe your second time around.
Yes.
I feel in a way that it affects me more than it would be like a blood family member. Because in many ways I'm closer to all of you guys than I am to my own blood, right? We share so much in common and we don't all from one another about our life struggles. It really feels like Brad's life is like ours in a way. So his sudden disappearance is it feels unreal. It really feels like it's a dream in some ways. But unfortunately that's reality.
Yeah, actually, I found myself at first disassociating from it, and oddly enough, I read my Stoicism Bible to read about grief, and this is the first thing you're supposed to do. So I must have remembered. And then, of course, the next thing is to deal with it, and it's it's out of my control. It's out of all our control. That we have to accept right away. Coming to that acceptance right away helps to deal with the loss, right? The absence, and it's only been a couple of days, but we're already dealing with the absence. And I think the best way to go about it is to not run from it, but to acknowledge it. And I think we did a good job in the meetings doing that. And like you said, the community came together. And like you said, for me too, this is the first person that I feel like I've been connected to, that I knew well and cared about, and that we've lost. So I was after the meeting last night. I did put my phone down a bit, and then after about an hour and a half or so, then I picked it back up again, and then I started texting a few people to see how they were doing. And that's the good thing about our community, and it's the right thing to do, right? We should all just check up on each other, just in case somebody has something to say. I won't name any names. There were a couple people that said something. One person that was devastated answered back with just like a one-word sentence. I let them be. Others were more talkative, but and I know this for a fact, and I guess we'll touch on this later, or maybe now. I wasn't like this before, like you said. I didn't. I just didn't do this. This wasn't me. This was not how I used to be, anyways. So I really see change. Uh, I would call it progress, growth. And Brad, who we're talking about, was a big part of that, because I mentioned in my shares that I literally learned it from him, because I got the repetition from him, the habit of checking up. Doesn't have to be every day, but checking up on who you care about, right? It doesn't, not when you're struggling, just share some memes, or just say how you doing. And it's really important, right? It's important not to just hit up people too when you're in a bad place. And I was really, really proud. It felt like the community was coming together last night. Obviously, for being a facilitator, he touched on so many people. So a lot of people in our community saw him regularly. And we'll see how this is going forward. But yeah, community. I assume this is what we're going to talk about a bit to start.
Yeah, I think that's only natural. And as you've mentioned, Eric, that's a good point. I was never like that. First of all, expressing my emotion is a sign of weakness. At least it was for me to use. And for reaching out also, well, I don't need help, so why would I reach out? kind of thing, right? So if that would have happened in another context a year ago, I would have been 100% isolated and probably in a very dark place right now. And I know that dark place is just around the corner. I'll have to watch for myself that being united in our community makes a whole world of difference. At least for me, it does, because it's very contrasting with my past life.
as as Eric said, like dissociating a bit. Just I think with grief and even in thought, at times, like even sorry, just now I did hear what you said, and I was also just thinking, listen and think. Also, just to it's difficult when difficult's not the word. It's like I know that like with the word grief or with loss and like you said disappearance, it's almost like that perhaps the echo that someone and sort of like the energy that someone's presence it leaves when they are no longer here is can sometimes be louder when they are. So what I'm just kind of thinking is I'm very thankful. I'm exceptionally thankful to be integrated into our alumni because when this had happened before, I immediately isolated and was at a point where I think that any reason was a reason to not do the next right thing or the next thing that will kind of um, help other people and myself. And like Eric mentioned that too, right? Is that um, you want to check on people or like we want to check on each other. We also want to be able to communicate back and forth. So there's kind of give and take in the not give and take, maybe there's that ebb and flow. There it is. Like in a relationship, like in recovery where they're able to share with each other in hard times, but good times too. Like, like really fun times. It's not always a crisis phone call, and that's what's cool. Like, that was super cool with Brad. Just like I could call, and then we would just talk, and that's maybe not something that's really a concept that's genuine, like that genuine communication where you're talking and you mean what you say, like and sharing like nuances in recovery and sort of at different stages too, like. And I know you mentioned too, like kind of looking to a source, for instance, for how to deal with. So you said, right, these things, and so like I know like there's different stages, right? Like denial and like Kubler-Ross did her whole thing on that. And I think it kind of goes backwards and forwards on a continuum. Yeah. So it's good. It's a good idea not to isolate. And I think it's natural for people to have large emotions like anger or confusion.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people with different type of emotions, from extremely sad to very angry at life in general. And I understand all of these emotions, pretty much navigated through all of them too. Um, but hearing other people getting it off their chest, at least I feel like it helps me processing these things so much faster than if I would be on my own and just turning that idea in my head without letting it out like I used to my entire life, right? So yes, and that's something I've learned from Brad. Brad was never afraid to say the things as they are or accept them as they are. But I still have some growing in that area to do. I still have my fair share of denial as an early recovering addict. Um, Then when I met when I was back in Ottawa, we keep referring to Ottawa as the annual gathering for a alumni group in person. Something literally changed in me. It's like I was holding back so much because I was ashamed or afraid of judgment, and like people like Ryan that was there on the podcast not that long ago, or Brad, like, and they have similar life story to mine. Really shown me that if you want to be sober, there's no holding back. You gotta be entirely genuine with yourself and in your communication with others. Because what's the actual fucking point of putting up an act in communication? There's no gain, not at all. So it takes a lot of time. We invest time in our recovery. If it's gonna be a fraud, might as well just keep using. Kind of how I've been approaching my sobriety since meeting Brad, and that resilience that he has. Because let's not go on his life story. I don't think that's pertinent. But he had a pretty harder than most, let's say, road to recovery. Yes, also like physically handicapped because of his drug use. None of these reasons were reasons enough for him to abandon or just resort to the fact that he'll be forever an addict for these kind of things, right? Because those are the irrational thoughts that comes into all of our minds. Like a little upset is a reason to just shit up, but it's hard to keep that nonsensical mindset if you listen to people like Brad. And we're so passionate about recovery, of course, but life in general, like how much he loved life and loved people in recovery. His son, it's hard not to actually be inspired, even if you're not necessarily looking for that. Hearing him out was a unique experience for, I believe, anyone who got the privilege to hear him speak about recovery. And I've been saying earlier today in my share that if there's only one way that I can honor him, it's going to be to make sure that I keep that mindset that I've acquired from him and let it be earned by as much people as possible. That's the reason why Eric and I discussed this morning that let's do a podcast that is really centered around this concept of community and celebrating Brad for the amazing human he was.
Yeah, well said. There's not much more I can really add to that. He was a great human being, right? I only knew him as a recovering addict. I don't know him from his past life at all, right? The Brad we were fortunate enough to get to see was probably the Brad he wanted to be and present and represent. And he fucking did that well. He touched so many people. It was evident, right? But like I said before, he literally showed me how it's done. About keeping connected with people. I will say about Sharon, honestly, that I came about that through someone else that helped me when I first started doing these meetings and allowed me to be myself first with them. And then I allowed myself to show up in the meetings, really. Like when I first showed up, I really talked only tools, but like, yeah. And now I just let it fly, right? I don't even know really where I'm going. I might have something written down and I'll start my share and then I'll try and end it on the thing I wrote down because I forgot to fucking talk about it. That's just how I am.
It's always a freestyle.
There's no other way. The squirrel in my head doesn't like it any other way. So one of these days I'll have to meet him and beat the shit out of a little fucker. But yeah, so the community, I think we should start there because it's special, right? A community like this, we know this. Well, I don't really want to get into 12 steps, the topic today, but I've talked off.
Thanks for today. We talk about it all the time, so we can. I agree.
True enough. But so I've never felt like that part of the community. And I've been to meetings and that, and it's very dispassionate. It's very anonymous. There you go. Hence the name. Hence why I don't like it, because I'm not anonymous and I don't plan on being anonymous in recovery. That's maybe why we're on a podcast using our fucking names.
Hey.
Our community, I can definitely say I was very proud of the way everybody stepped up, shared honestly. You're right. There were some people that let their anger go. And that's normal, right? That's one of the stages, right? Denial, anger. So it was just perfectly normal for what that person said. One of the stages, it's grief. That's what it is. It's really heartfelt grief and shock. So there's no shame in that. We've talked about this before, how in recovery, especially like we talked about SMART and why isn't it more well known? And I realize our alumni group is not specifically smart, but the template sure seems like it would work. You know what I mean? It just feels like it should be broad based, and every fucking rehab center should have their own aftercare for alumni to go there. It would only make sense because you've gone through it with these people. These people know these places. They know facilitators and counselors and psychologists they would have met at these places. How is this not just a normal fucking thing for the recovering addict? You know what I mean? I understand it's money. I understand money's involved. Yeah, thanks, Liz. Do the sign, Liz. That's good. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's funny. I sent you a meme. I know I'm always thinking memes. I sent you a meme. I don't know if you saw it, where someone, because I saw it in share. Someone was like, "I had a doctor sending me to get a colonoscopy, and I got other things, other appointments lined up," and the meme would have been, that guy that looks at you and goes, "You guys got doctors?" That's what, Quebec. You guys got doctors.
About
That's what I was
privilege,
thinking when I
essentially.
saw it.
Yeah, Lizzie, you made the right sign, but yes, we were kind of privileged to attend Searidge or Heritage, and that they choose to invest in a post treatment alumni group because, well, it costs a lot of money, but it saves a lot of lives. So that's
Exactly.
where they make the call, right? And even at that, we are only just a small portion of people that attended treatment that actually stick to meetings. There's that as well. It's hard to even have clients that will adhere to a community like this. It might also explain why it's not common across all treatment facilities. But you're right, because we relate in a way that is quite unique in our group. And I've surfed around like you, like I've attended several different 12-step meetings. I've been also in national smart meetings, been in local smart meetings pretty much everywhere around the states. There's nothing quite like what we have. And it may be because I'm biased, because it's us, because it's me, because it's our family. But beyond that bias, I think there's something very special about what I'm not going to drop any name, but what people emerging from Heritage and Sea Ridge managed to accomplish in creating that community.
Now, I think this is where you're exactly right. Uh, I haven't been in any other rehab, so I can't give you any fucking examples, right? But I know from people that have been to, I was fortunate to be there at a time when there was a person there who had been to 7 other rehabs, and he told me all about them, and he said, "This is the best fucking place I've ever been," and it's because you have everything there besides just the smart program. There's yoga, there's holistic stuff, there's art therapy going on. There is many different aspects. It is not just centralized on one idea. I think maybe in some way that is part of the special magic of both Sea Ridge and Heritage. Because people have such a uniquely most people, I would say, the ones that show up in our groups, have a uniquely good experience getting sober there, that it's a place, like it is for me. It's a place in my mind that I can pull up the image, I can pull up anything from that compound. It brings me back to the right place that I want to be. Right? It's serenity. You know what I mean? It's literally serenity. It's just it's a shame that not everyone that seeks help can't be in a place like this.
To say on the subject like an aftercare program, such as what they have, well, such as and it's grown too, right? Like it's grown. Um, I wasn't familiar with I'm going back in the past, or I wasn't familiar with the benefits of why the word commiserating is coming up, but it's not. It's not the Misery Loves Company. It's like It's like sharing. There it is. Like sharing thoughts with like-minded people. We can be quite different, and there are lots of different folks, right? Like very random friendship. Yet still, it's with aftercare. Like this is a fact, right? This is done through my research, like research that I personally did at great length and expense, spending a lot of time like looking from PEI all the way to Vancouver. Most places it's about 2 years, and then that's because they'll discuss that, right? Different places, and so yeah, when you say magic, like I mean just the place itself. And yeah, when I've driven even past the exit, I kind of get the chill still because I'm like, oh, so here's the magic place. Here's my home, right? But and also, I think it's sort of like those are like the ties that like bring us together, and it is sad that not every place is like that. I will say, I had a criteria, had a list before I went. This one met almost all of the boxes. It ticked almost all the boxes except that it was co-ed, which I didn't want. Which is strange because things all happen for a reason, and most of my friends now, yeah, I'm very glad to have met them, and we seem to actually have similar life experiences. Like I don't know why I had that. That was maybe like a fear. It was fixed in my mind that I won't be able to relate, with other people, and especially with men. I won't be able to relate with men, and then I mean, like, I liked the groups there that were run by the male facility or male counselors, right? Like I really did. It's not a gender like discussion so much as it's just most of my friends in recovery are dudes. So it's kind of cool. And I think to just, yeah, like the things that I learned about myself that I really was not expecting. Like I did not go there to have this much like insight. Sometimes it's straight up it's a piss off sometimes because I'm like, something else I learned there. And I'm still working through it. The goal is not to who's going to get better the fastest. No, this is a lifestyle. It's a way of life. So through our meetings, and we get to learn things about each other. And with that honesty, people are going to be as honest as they want to be in our community. Like if one of my mottos is if I can't be honest with someone, then they are not really in my loop in my life, right? They're just, at least not for right now. And I'm not about to either explain myself to anybody anymore because I'm living, kind of tying it back. We don't know how much time we have. We know as human beings, we're here for a certain period of time and that's that. So we get to decide how we want to live. I think that, like autonomy, right, is very important. There's one other thing I was thinking, and I'll flip it back to you guys, but I'm very lucky to have had a friend here with me because, yeah, I am pretty far away from almost anybody. There's, I think, maybe just 3 people that I know that I speak to that are even within 2 hours of where I live. And
That was one of them.
yeah, Brad was one of them, right? So the rest of y'all are over in the next country over. So like, but what I wanted to talk about was when I was at Heritage. So I got this tattoo, which is on my hands, and this is what I kept thinking last night. And it's on one end, like so it's Latin. Well, yeah, I have my rings on, but so on one hand, it's love your fate, not just accept it, but it's love one's own fate, right? And on the other side, it's remember everyone has a time to die. So amor fati memento mori, like everyone has their time. And these 4 words, any first year like philosophy student is told to go write 10 pages, right? And what it meant to me when I came across it, or like a cult classic film, or like a quote that just kind of blows someone's mind, for me, it meant that where I am in life, and my struggles, or, that by happenstance or what have you, and Brad was like this too. Like it was further than acceptance. I must love where I am at and love my fate, because it is what it is. This is what it is, right? And I chose that because the other side is too painful. And then the second part is, remember, we all do have a time to die. There is a time where we individually will be no longer. So people could take it, live it up, like party on. Like, no, like party's over. Party's like quiet, no. And like maybe do more meaningful things, like raise awareness about, I don't know, this subject in particular. So yeah, I'm gonna flip the ball of energy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing input, by the way. Source of a lot of reflection for me as well, what you just said. And I like how you explain your tattoos and the difference between accepting and loving what's coming your way. There's a world of difference between those two point of view. And you're right when you say, like, most of what I've acquired in treatment, I was not going there for that at all. I was trying to get clean. I was trying to be cured in 30 days, like I guess most of us. We've acquired knowledge that it's hard to accept as well. We're going to be addicts for our entire life. We're going to be working this program until we die, with the hope of becoming the better version of ourselves along the way. It's a good reason to relapse for many people, refusing to accept that you are an addict, even though you had a really great stay for 30 days. The 31st day, if you don't accept your fate and you don't love it in some way, you are pretty much already at risk. I guess without the alumni meetings, being on my own, going back home, I cannot say that I would have been doing pretty well. I was lost so many days that I've logged in at 6 p.m. because it's 7 p.m. for the organizer, but it's 6 for us. It's harder to make it. But anyways, all that to say that during dinner time, logging into a meeting and actually being reminded what this actual journey is. And one of our elders saying it's not Boy and Girl Scout of America, and it's very true. It's definitely not fun times all the time, but it's real. It's just so fucking real. And I didn't have that in my life for I don't know how many years. Nothing was real. Everything was made up by me. And I kind of fell in love with that as well. Hearing people genuinely speak and doing the same and being heard. I find myself alone, splitting with my wife and being separated from my children after actually developing that sense of community with you guys. It's a good thing that it happened after, because that was in many, many days was the only place where I could actually break my isolation. And I would cry for like hours during meeting. Guys just being so kind to me. That never happened. I would either pretend everything was great or hide so I wouldn't be seen. And I did the exact opposite and received so much love, so much support that I've healed from that in some capacity. I'm still healing, but so much faster and so much healthier than my previous coping mechanism. We're going to bundle up until we don't feel it anymore. It used to be the baseline. I can't. If I'm not feeling right, I'm calling one of you two guys or somebody else, but like I'm not sitting with that crappy feeling. I just can't anymore. So in a way, I said that a couple of times in different contexts. Like when I'm broken, my old ways of coping just don't work anymore. So kind of makes me a better person, I want to say. I don't really feel like I'm a better person, but I can see in my behaviors that I'm probably acting in a better way than I used to. And yeah, I was saying this morning, if I would be to pass away tomorrow, I don't believe I'd be as proud as Brad could be. Uh, I hope my time is not coming anytime soon because I have a lot of healing to do. But I know I'm in the right community. I'm surrounded with the right people to get there sooner than later. Be that person I want to be. Um, but I think it's happening actually from the day to the other. I feel better about myself. I communicate better. I even run a podcast currently. And that is all literally an outcome of having joined this community and developed true friendship with you guys.
Um, okay, let me start with that. Now I didn't have a lot of people I communicated with before, and if I did, I communicated very well, exactly what I wanted them to know. What I do now, I don't do as well as I did then. My mind goes everywhere now because I have so much to say. It's different. Before I had my whatever, my agenda that I wanted to say, what I wanted them to know. Now, in recovery, it's completely different. I will say something or I will feel something while I'm saying it. It happened to me in the odd share, right? In the last couple of weeks, I attribute it to tapping into feelings in therapy. I also attribute it to feeling the closeness of these groups. I know when you talk about radical acceptance, like Brad had it, right? And like speaking about Brad, when we talk about like you're saying you don't feel you're a better person. Well, this is the point of these groups, right? Because we see the progress and we remind you that you're better, you're progressing, it's working. I know it. I know it because I think the same thoughts too. Is like I'm plateauing. I'm stopped. I'm just sober. But other people see different things in me that I don't see because I don't see them because I don't want to see them. I'm used to not seeing them. I'm used to hiding from them or just being blind to them. Radical acceptance. Let me put it this way: I never asked for help for fucking anything. So when I actually had you on a phone say the words, and I remember it clearly. I'll try to say them because it brings me right back to that place. And I can say these words any other time, but when I'm thinking of that moment, when I was on the other end of a person from the TELUS hotline, I'll say the name. It was an app for our work. This is before I called the Heritage. When I finally reached that stage in my life where I didn't know any other way out except two options, right? Two options. One option was continue what I was doing and die, which I'm pretty sure that's what I was going to do. And the other option was to actually speak on that telephone and ask for help. And when I said the words, I need help, I cried for the next minute and a half on the phone. And the other person on the other end just listened and let me cry. Because never have I said those words and meant it. I never, if I ever asked for help, it was like, you want to help me lift this out of the car? It was nothing seriously important, right? So when I got the Heritage, I was done. I've told you this before. I was done. All that long. I had radical acceptance to begin with because I felt like I had no other choice. But to talk about like what Liz talked about, when you have these genuine conversations with people, and they're actually listening to what you're saying. Really listening, right? Because you could be rambling, like I could be, like you could be rambling on and off the subject, but they're still listening, and then they'll come back with something, right? And oddly enough, how many times in rehab at Heritage, it always felt like when I was having these conversations, I just happened to sit down with the right person that day because I got back what I needed. Like whatever it was, it's like it was supposed to be that person to hear me that day because they had the input or the validation or the empathy I needed to hear. It's very strange. It's very strange how it works. It's very strange. But that's really what it really speaks to is connection and what we don't do as human beings. We talk to each other and we talk over each other and we talk past each other, but we don't talk to each other. And one thing in recovery I can say for sure is I am a much better listener. And I'm also better at talking. Not necessarily concisely, but I'm better at talking.
We are ADHD after all, right?
Well,
That
even
doesn't
worse
change
in
because we're
recovery.
still.
Yeah, even worse in recovery.
There was a warning that I only share 1 out of 10. I keep quiet 9/10 of my thoughts, so that speaks volumes. So I was like, ugh, what do I not say? What do I say? Because there's a fine filter there. Yeah, what you're saying, having those conversations at the right time, reassurance, or just like it's almost like I talk about like this small. It's like a not an experiment, but it's a small place to reintegrate, especially if people have been isolated and ill, right? So it's a disease, it's an illness, it's fucking science, yeah. Like so, having a small group of people is actually much better than having a large amount. That's what I had hoped for. Was like 50, a group of 50 people, and just fade into the background, just be quiet, not say anything, like I think be too real, like not interact, like never talk. It's just like right, and then I was really happy to see that that was not the case. And to be able to, I mean, just to even think of who I was with, and anonymity is important for me in my line of work. It's like, at least my vocationally, it is important, scholarly wise, like through school, because I'm in school. Is the opposite. So I'm kind of still trying to meet somewhere in there. And I know also like there's an aspect too with parenting. And I think we can all nod our heads and know about this too. Like as a parent, there's some kind of, caution or safety around like recovery. But that doesn't mean that anyone, especially in our circles, um, should hold back their truth. And it doesn't have to be spoken to everybody, but when you can meet a couple of people, it's not even usually who you went there with, right? Like sometimes maybe if you're lucky, really lucky, then yes. Not that seems to be not the statistic or the reality. So, but if you can, find someone to speak your truth with, that's kind of really cool. And, in this, little base that we were at, little base camp, we had all the same training. We learned the same school, like the same skills. So then we kind of progressed forward from that point. And I think that's another part of this alumni. It's not that the club is exclusive, it is it's inclusive, right? Like, and yet that these different things that we have, I think, they're just really cool, and to see, yeah, how much we have in common, like, and admitting that different but people have different personalities, right? But admitting that I would need help to a stranger that's not my character. I need help. No, I'm good. I'm good over here. No, I was not good. And I can safely say now, I most of the time I'm quite good and I'm grateful. And like I know you guys are too, so it's better this way.
When we're not, though, we know what to do. That's new for me, very new. But I think you mentioned something I never thought about, but about 10 or 12 person in a group, it's a different number. And I think it's part of the unique recipe that makes Heritage and Seerage special, because it's impossible to hide like in a group of 50. You will not be forgotten about. And it's just uncomfortable enough that you get always outside of your comfort zone. And at least for me, it just a few days, but I was not able to shut up. I would just, and I haven't shut up since. But I was always the most quiet person in the room, like trying not to like. Even I blend with the wall, like even to this day, it's natural for me. I didn't get the right palette, not like you did, but like just trying to blend in the environment and not be seen was more my way to be. I had my counselor says, well, you kind of need to shut up, right? Day 3 or 4, like, so we get it, like, but let other people talk as well, right? And I was like offended. The fuck, man! I just like, I'm not even. I'm just getting started, so deal with it. And then eventually, my brain also kind of, continued to clear up from my DOC, and I stabilized. It balanced the idea of listening, not only talking. So I learned to communicate in Heritage, essentially, in that idealistic, I guess, amount of people. I think we were 12 and my group were 11, something like that. But also, people leave and come all the time, so it's not exactly a fixed number for a period of 30 days. But yeah, I never thought of that. Thank you, Liz, for mentioning this.
Good ratio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna hit on that too, what Liz mentioned, because
So then,
I had looked into other programs, and there was this one program in Quebec. I'm not gonna say a name, but it was a 21-day program, and it's like Liz talked about. There was 50 people, 50 men in one building, 50 women in the other building, and a shared compound for, I guess, recess, which was a concrete, right? So can you imagine? You're just standing around like in prison yard on concrete, bumming smokes. It doesn't feel like the most ideal setting. And like you said, large groups. The thing about Heritage is you're right. You can't hide. And the groups are intimate. And this way, much like our groups are in online, this is how you connect to people. This is how you get to know people. This is how you learn about them. And oddly enough, when I was at Heritage, especially that first month and a half, I was the quiet one, if you can fucking believe it. I never interrupted. Yeah, no, seriously, don't give me that look. I never interrupted. I had notes. I had notes. When it be a certain counselor's workshop, for some reason, I felt like I had a freedom with him, and I would give all my answers in poems. It's like, okay, here's a poem, but you got to read it now. Well, fuck, I don't want to read it. So I moved on. I got my voice back as I got better. Like I said, I stayed until I felt like I knew the tools. Like stuff was becoming innate, like part of my personality. And once I was there, then I don't want to say too much because some of the counselors ends up hearing what I was doing at the end. I didn't do anything wrong. It's just that I had a lot of freedom because apparently people trust me too much. No, they don't trust me too much. I didn't do anything wrong. If it would have been anybody else, they shouldn't have. You're right. In these small intimate groups, you see different people come through. Like I was there long enough to see 3 groups, I call them, because initially there was a group that left like 2 weeks after I was there. Another one came in, and another one came in. I got to see the first 2 weeks of another group. So much, and part of the end of the third group. So much so that I did my own workshop before I left because the way they came in, they had missed some tool topics. So before I left, I did 2 workshops myself to the group to catch them up on tools that had not been done and had not been discussed that I had full of notes on. That's how much I felt strongly about the program already at that point, that I believed you're going to fucking need this. And by the time I did my workshops, I was like I am now, forcefully, right? And I'd be like, you're going to fucking want to know this. You're going to need to know this. You're going to need to have this like this. It better come to you in the 1, 2, 3 right away. You better be able to dispute. That was the one I really, really harped on, was disputing, because and it's still my best tool, disputing, more or less. Yeah. When we start talking about heritage and about tools, I get very excited because it was so much what I was looking for. I know if I would have went to a 12-step one, it would not have worked out for me. I just know this because there's no way I can approach it. It just doesn't. Even now, and I read Stoicism and that, which I've told you before, that I find a lot of the same stuff in there, which is all well and good if you want to be a Stoic. Well, Stoics don't express themselves that much. Okay, thus the name Stoic. So yeah, I much better like the more holistic, more humanistic approach that we had at Heritage, and that continues in our aftercare alumni. And like you said, Eric, yeah, the continuing, right? Like when we need it most, those meetings are there every night, and there's been nights when we need them, and it must be. I can't imagine just doing that to like a national meeting. You know what I mean? That's why these alumni groups are special. And that's when I said every rehab center should have an aftercare program online. That's what I meant, is that you will have a large group, but they won't be there every night. So it will be certain faces you see. It'd be a lot like ours, right? You'll have the meeting makers, as Ryan would call them, meeting makers. They make it,
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that one before. You heard that?
Like,
Have you heard that? Meeting makers make it.
It's a bit too much.
Oh, well.
It's true.
okay, we would go up. So, I mean,
We late, but we there.
Eric, I think the word is you care.
Mm.
You care, dude.
I have trouble with
So
that word.
learning to care. Yeah, caring.
But it's funny because on our last Sunday for Father's Day, we kind of established that it's within you, it's within me, that caring for others in a fatherly figure kind of way.
Yeah. And you keep bringing that up, so I guess I'm going to have to learn to accept it. Because I don't always think of it that way. Because the people that I hung out with on Friday, right? They're like my bros. But it shouldn't be
Yeah.
lost on me that I'm like 20, 25 years older than all these guys, right? So it's probably like, yeah, I'm probably the bad guy of the rehab, and I just still haven't grown up yet. Fucking Peter Pan. What can I say?
We happen to be more organized, structured, and dependable than other people. Let's just say it this way. Maybe not age related.
Take a compliment.
Yeah,
Take the
okay. No, I'm
compliment.
not good at those either. True.
Take
Got it.
No, the caring. What I heard was caring. I heard, like, especially, like, going somewhere, speaking about community, right? This is how I think of community. We have these different communities in our lives, right? Some of them are mandatory, some of them are, let's say, for instance, work. Like, wherever someone works. Okay, so sometimes that's mandatory, fortunately. Very unfortunately. And really, in recovery, at times people see that it doesn't fit their lifestyle anymore. and it actually maybe their workplace might go against their values, right? Because it's what we kind of learn to embrace are these values, like maybe not right or wrong, what's good or bad, like justified, not justified, fair, unfair. These are concepts that I learned are kind of like, it's black or white thinking, right? Like, so the CBT kind of part for me, I've already done work like that at work and for myself, but the DBT is important. Why? Because I need to know what to do, or I cannot do anything, or that I'm doing everything. That's sort of right. It's a balance, and what you talked about, like different people to come through, and you cared, right? It's not that like everything. No, it's because you care, and well, I believe, right? Like I could be wrong. Maybe I got y'all wrong. I don't think so. That you care, and especially like you're a poet. Like no, you care. So you care enough to show someone like this is kind of how it is, and just also kind of learning to respect like a certain amount of rules, because not a lot of us love those. I do not. I don't love rules that I didn't create, but for the purposes of being there, I wanted to do that. I wanted to learn how to be honest, and yeah, that's something that is just, yeah, I'm very thankful that and especially for both of you to be speaking about this, and including me, and like, yeah, caring is cool.
It's cool. And
Cool.
you mentioned something about the rules, because I'm not big on rules either. I'm big as a father, but not exactly as a child. Yeah, and you said it, Eric. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Wendy also has a lot of knowledge that was essential for people to actually survive. Right? We need a Wendy's. All that being said, Heritage. I don't know about Sirius, but Heritage is likely the most liberal place I've ever been. There's tons of conservative people. What I mean by liberal is that you are in control. You are empowered. If you decide to fuck, you fuck alright. Like you have a very brief search when you get in. Any addicts could smuggle whatever they want, and like it's not a point. You're there because you choose to be there, and you got to make what you want out of it. Do you want to be sober or not? Is really, to me, the real question. But beyond like that gate, it's what you put into it. If you don't wake up for groups, you're not going to go to groups. If you don't do what you have to do, nothing will happen. No, nobody will force you. As opposed to, say, I'm not sure which place you were referring to for 50 men. It's more of a like army regiment kind of structure where they'll turn on the light at 5 a.m. You have to do your band, and then.
Yeah, it's militant.
That kind of shit. I could not have stayed 3 days in there. But I knew that about myself. Like, I'm glad that I knew enough about myself to know that if I wanted to succeed, I needed to be in control. I needed never to feel powerless. And that is the first thing I got in Heritage. Day 3 after detox, I was empowered to get sober, but it was on me. I was accountable, empowered, but accountable of the outcome of all this. And I know SMART is well implanted in Europe and especially in the States, but in Canada, we just got very lucky because there's very few of those places that will approach sobriety from a CBT, DBT, and ABT approach. I guess it was our destiny in some ways. I want to believe in that, because it's not only luck, right? We were meant to land there. Yeah. Well, especially it's a large part of my success. The fact that I was entrusted also. And the fact that, the staff make you feel human from day 0. I haven't felt human in like at least 6 months. Yeah, not human enough to like care about if I have a shower. I was just trash bag walking around, and I felt love. I felt love by that stuff, and not in a non-professional way, but like that warm
Empathy.
empathy and yes, care, the care.
See,
Yes. Yes, I'm looking at the time. We already spoke more than an hour, so perhaps gonna conclude on something positive if you'd like, guys. But I want to say like I will be forever grateful for Heritage staff. I have all of them in my, even those that I had maybe differences with, they are in my, because I've learned from all of those encounters.
conclude. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, all right. We'll go back to the beginning. Yeah. I feel like when not sure what to do when someone from our group that we went with has an unfortunate, let's say, an unfortunate ending, or especially someone that is really that's there, right? Like in our meetings, it's important to, if you don't feel comfortable to come to the meeting, that's okay. Maybe just call, right? Like we each have each other's. Some of us have each other's phone numbers or emails or whatever. Like maybe like visiting isn't like what am I trying to say? Isn't always the easiest option. And I know, I mean, it's a good thing it's summer. It's nice outside most of the time, so it's frigid, freezing Canada. I do really like the reason, like I really wanted to also be a part of this today, is because I thought, when this incident had occurred before, well, maybe if the meetings were at a different time, or maybe if they're more accessible, maybe these were just all like I was confused, and now it's not about that. It's about more so to reach out, like, and you know what? The most surprising thing is when I have reached out to people, almost most of the time, and almost always, the person who I choose to reach out with, like even Erica said that too, like that discussion, even now, like it seems to happen at the right time. Like the term terminally unique, right? Like this is not a unique thing. Oh, I'm so special because no, we all have feelings, and it's okay to share those with each other. And in this time, I think it's important, right? I really do. From experience, holding it in and just harboring resentment, and going into like the bedroom and just isolating and getting, pissed off and staying away from any kind of community or positive outcome that has come from this new way of life and personality, like you even said, right? Like this new way of thinking, this new way of living and caring and loving people, loving ourselves, like is really important right now. I believe you both agree, but I hope you do. Like that's
100%.
yeah.
And I even want to risk saying, Eric, but what you just referred to, the right discussion happening at the right time with the right people. Things happens for a reason, and whatever your spiritual beliefs are might have increased a lot since getting sober, because things don't happen without a reason. And even some people were questioning higher power involvement in Brad's capacity. It's hard to understand on many levels, but I am a firm believer that everything happens in a very specific way for a very specific reason. Like the reason why we're having this discussion right now is all linked to the entire continuum of events that makes our existence pretty unique and worth living. I'm gonna turn the mic to you, Eric.
Okay. So I will push back on that because Liz actually brought it up, and it's a good point. We are not unique. That is the thing. It's just, we all think we're unique, and in some ways we have some uniqueness, but we're not unique. And the reason when we reach out that someone is there for us is because we're not unique. It's not time or place, and it's not magic, and it's not the universe. It is the human experience, and we need to experience it more. If everybody did it, it would fix a lot of fucking things in this planet, but we don't as a species. We have a different drive. And you mentioned it actually the other day when you talked about schooling and what you were taught. So I'm not going to defer to a higher power. I'm not going to give a higher power credit for the people that have touched me in my life. It is because the people I reached out to and I talked to help me that I feel better every day, and I am progressing. And I'm not about, and once again, it's about surrender. I'm not surrendering that to something I haven't seen, heard, don't believe. I will believe in the people that I meet, and when they're genuine, I will believe in them till I die. That I can say. But yeah, and as for the meetings, I know, like Liz, I'm not sure if that's where you were going, Liz, but in our meetings, you don't have to be on camera and you don't have to speak. So, I mean, it just, just the idea of hearing other people and just being in that room, there's probably something people can get out of it. I just want to stress that. We do know some people that did that, and they are present in the rooms now, more present than before. And yeah, so I
That's
think,
entertaining, but we started from not even turning the camera. Yeah,
right,
we
exactly.
know those people.
hmm But yeah, I would just say that.
And we don't have to be alone.
But back to my point.
Sorry.
That
Yeah.
but you're exactly right. That's the point. We don't have to be alone.
Yeah.
And you said it when we isolate. All these problems really, 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 really start in our head, right? When we start to isolate and we fear talking about whatever it is we're thinking to someone else. It pretty much starts there, right? We don't get it out. And what we've noticed and what we've all learned, I know I've learned, is once I start just communicating with people, I'm a better person. I get better. I feel relieved. I get a sense of attachment or compassion or oneness, whatever you want to call it. Higher power if you want, sure, whatever. I just think it really is about the human experience. And I just think you have that stupid Bell Talk Day in Canada. It happens once a year, Bell Talk, we really should encourage, we should talk every day. And this is, I think, what we do in these groups. What we've learned, and
Every day.
And I'll end it on this. The person that was the best at it was Brad, who we were talking about at the beginning. That guy would reach out to me all the time. And like I said, I learned from him. I learned to communicate from him just to reach out, because you might be reaching out at the right time. And that's what makes it unique.
Guys, thank you.
That's a perfect way to end this chat. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Peace out.